All right, so this is Chapter 7 of Chapter 2 of the 7th video of Chapter 2. All right, and we are going to start right here. In fact, the scaffold constituted a portion of the penal machine, which now, for the 2 or 3 generations past, has been merely historical and traditionally among us, but was held in the old times to be as an effectual agent in the promotion of good citizenship as ever was the guillotine among the terrorists of France. Okay, so we see here that the scaffold, if you know what a scaffold is, like again, it's like a stage of some sort. The messy highlighting there. It's a stage of some sort where they, not to do Shakespearean plays, but it's a place for punishment. And so to us we see a scaffold as something, and even to the time of Hawthorne they see a scaffold as something historical or something kind of from the past. But to them it was something that kept it was a penal machine, meaning that it kept the discipline and it maintained good citizenship. Right? It's almost like the cross in the Romans, right? The Romans hung these thieves and criminals on crosses, and then they would have these string of crosses leading into Rome, and all these people dying and dead and decaying on these crosses was a sign to any passerby and going into the town, and it was a warning. You better mind our rules, or else this could happen to you. And that's kind of what happened with the scaffold. And so I don't know what your view on public embarrassment or shame, but it's obviously our society does not appreciate it too much. And so, but the Puritans felt like the best way they can maintain control of their society is by publicly punishing people. That way other people will be deterred from doing it. Okay, and that's kind of what's happening here on the scaffold. So starting off with it was, right here. It was, in short, the platform of the pillory, and above it rose the framework of the instrument of discipline, so fashioned as to confine the human head in its tight grasp, and thus hold it up to the public gaze. The very ideal of enmity was embodied and made manifest of this contrivance of wood and iron. There can be no outrage, methinks, against our common nature. Whatever be the delinquencies of the individual, no outrage more flagrant to forbid the culprit to hide his face or shame, as it was the essence of this punishment to do. So, and here he's basically saying that, when we do something really bad, the first thing our human instincts would be is to retreat. But not here. You have to make yourself public. You have to make yourself publicly seen. It's complete opposite of what the human nature would want to do. In Hester Prynne's instance, however, as not unfrequently in other cases, her sentence bore that she would stand a certain time upon the platform, but without undergoing that gripe about the neck and confinement of the head, the proneness to which was the most devilish characteristic of this ugly engine. So what she was talking about here with the confinement of the neck and the head is, you probably have seen these in old movies or whatever. So on these scaffolds, convicts would have to put their hands in these, into this wooden device and stick their head through it, and so they have to look out. They're forced to look out into the crowd, and then they would be out there for about a good couple of days, and people in the marketplace would walk past and scream insults, throw stuff at them as a form of punishment, and it's a public display of just you messed up. Yeah, and so that's kind of a big deal, because especially if you're in a small town and you're publicly shamed, you'll be forever remembered as this woman who messed up and sinned and went against society. And there's probably very little chance of redeeming your sense of value and worth in that society. Knowing her part, she ascended a flight of wooden steps and was thus displayed to the surrounding multitude, at about the height of a man's shoulders above the street. And so let's go back. She's actually not going to go into this confinement, because they actually want everyone to see the Scarlet Letter. And if she was in this neck confinement, they wouldn't see it. Had there been a papist among the crowd of Puritans, he might have seen in this beautiful woman, so picturesque in her attire and mien, and with the infant at her bosom, an object to remind him of the image of divine maternity, which so many illustrious painters have vied with one another to represent. Something which should remind him, indeed, but only by contrast, of the sacred image of sinless motherhood, whose infant was to redeem the world. Here there was the taint of the deepest sin in the most sacred quality of human life, working such effect that the world was only the darker for this woman's beauty, and the most lost for the infant that she had borne. So Hawthorne's painting this picture. If you see Hester Prynne on the scaffold, you'll notice a couple things. You'll notice that she is beautiful. She represents divine maternity, meaning that there's something profoundly beautiful about her, right? That's like, my gosh, if I look at this woman, I could see her as a very caring, as a strong, as a loving person, right? And because that she exuded these such good qualities, even heavenly qualities, it just shows how depraved the world is. Here, that this was the taint of deepest sin and the modest sacred of human life, right? That the world was only a darker place because of this woman's beauty, right? So if somebody who sinned and it could still manifest this much beauty in this world, this much beauty, the world is a very destroyed and tainted place. Okay, this ends video number 7.